The CEO humiliated a single dad and had him escorted out. Then she learned he had just saved her son. Marcus Ellison woke up at 4:30 in the morning, the same way he had woken up every single day for the past 3 years. There was no alarm. His body just knew. He lay still for exactly 10 seconds, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, then swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood up. His daughter, Amara, was still sleeping in the next room. She was 9 years old, and she slept like she had not a single worry in the world. Marcus made sure of that. He made sure the rent was paid, the fridge had food, her school bag was packed the night before, and her favorite blanket was always washed and folded at the end of her bed. She did not know how close the edges were sometimes. Children should not have to know that. He put on his work clothes quietly, the faded blue jacket, the steel-toed boots he had resold twice because new ones were not in the budget, and left a note on the kitchen counter the way he always did. It said, "Oatmeal is in the pot. Lunch is in the fridge. I love you, Dad." He had a morning shift at a warehouse on the east side of the city. 4 hours of lifting, stacking, and loading. After that, he had to cross town to reach the civic enrollment office before 10 o'clock. Today was the last day to register Amara for the better school, the one with the music program, the smaller classes, and teachers who actually called parents back. She had been on the waitlist for 7 months. Her number finally came up. Missing today's deadline meant losing the spot permanently. He had a folder tucked under his arm as he walked out the door. Inside that folder were 4 forms, 2 copies of her birth certificate, proof of address, and a letter from her current teacher. He had organized everything the night before, carefully, the way a man organizes something he cannot afford to get wrong. The morning was cold and gray. Marcus rode 2 buses to reach the warehouse. He worked without speaking much, the way he always did, steady, reliable, the kind of worker who never needed to be reminded twice. By 8:15, his shift was done. He washed his hands, changed his undershirt in the bathroom, and started moving. He did not see the accident before it happened. Nobody did. One moment, the cars on the overpass bridge were moving in the usual slow morning rhythm. The next, there was the sharp sound of metal meeting metal, a spin, and then a hard crunch against the guardrail. A silver car, small, the kind teenagers drive, had clipped another vehicle and slammed sideways into the railing. The front end crumpled. Steam began rising from under the hood. Marcus was on the footpath beside the road. He stopped. He looked. Other cars slowed, but nobody got out. A few drivers reached for their phones, not to call, but to record. He was already moving before he finished thinking. From the back of his delivery van, which he used on his evening shift, he grabbed a tire iron and a fire blanket he kept there from his old roadside assistance days. He jogged to the car. The driver's side door was jammed. Through the spider-cracked window, he could see a teenage boy slumped against the deployed airbag, conscious but confused, a cut above his eye bleeding down his cheek. "Hey," Marcus said, pressing his hand flat against the glass. "Look at me. What's your name?" The boy blinked. "Tyler." "Okay, Tyler. I'm going to get you out. Keep talking to me." He worked the door with the tire iron, wedging and pulling, his shoulders straining. His hands slipped. He adjusted his grip. He tried again. He talked to the boy the entire time, asking him simple things, what grade he was in, what music he liked, anything to keep him awake and focused. 3 minutes passed. Then 4. On the 4th minute, with one final pull that tore the skin on his right palm, the door gave way. Marcus reached in, moved the airbag aside, and carefully pulled Tyler free. He half-carried him to the grass on the side of the road, away from the car. Then he pulled off his own jacket, folded it, and pressed it firmly against the cut on Tyler's forehead. "Hold this. Press hard." 30 seconds later, a small fire started in the engine. Not large, but real. Marcus looked at it, then back at the boy, then at the folder he had set down on the grass. He stayed. He did not leave until he heard the paramedics coming, and even then he waited until they had their hands on Tyler and confirmed aloud that the boy was stable. He picked up his folder. He checked his watch. He had 11 minutes to reach the enrollment office. It was a 12-minute walk. He walked fast anyway. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. His right hand was wrapped in strips of his undershirt, which was now soaked through with blood. His jacket was still with Tyler on the grass. He did not go back for it. He just walked, the folder pressed under his arm, telling himself that maybe they would give him 5 extra minutes if he explained. People were reasonable. Sometimes they were. He turned the wrong way at the corner of 5th and Archer. The two buildings looked almost identical from the outside, the same glass fronts, the same revolving doors, the same gray stone steps. He pushed through the doors and walked toward the front desk, his boots leaving faint prints on the polished marble floor. The lobby of Cole Meridian Group was designed to say one thing, that the people who worked here were serious and successful, and not to be interrupted. Everything was clean. Everything was quiet. The receptionist behind the desk, a young woman named Claire, looked up when Marcus approached, and something in her face changed. Not unkindly, but visibly. She took in the torn shirt, the wrapped hand, the tired eyes. "I think I have the wrong building," Marcus said. "I'm looking for the civic enrollment office. For school registration." Before Claire could answer, a voice cut across the lobby. "Security." It was not a question. It was not a request. It was the voice of someone who had given enough instructions in enough rooms that the words came out already obeyed. Diana Cole was 44 years old and had built her company from a small freight operation into a mid-size logistics group with offices in 3 cities. She had done it through 15 years of early mornings, hard decisions, and a refusal to tolerate disorder in any form. She was crossing the lobby with 2 board members when she saw Marcus standing at the desk. She did not ask what he needed. She did not ask who he was. She looked at him the way people sometimes look at a stain on an otherwise clean surface, briefly, and with a solution already decided. "This is a private building," she said, loud enough for the room to hear. She was already turning away. Already moving on. Already certain. One of the board members said something quiet and she gave a small, dismissive laugh. "Every week," she said, as if Marcus were a pattern, a recurring inconvenience, a type of person rather than a person. 2 security guards arrived quickly. They were not rough. They were simply firm, hands at his elbow, a gesture toward the door, a polite but final instruction: "Sir, you'll need to step outside." Marcus did not argue. He had learned a long time ago that arguing in lobbies like this one cost more than it returned. He simply looked once, not at Diana, who had already walked away, but at Claire, who had the grace to look uncomfortable, and then he walked out. On the sidewalk, he stood for a moment in the cold air. He checked the time. The enrollment office was 2 doors down. It was now 10 minutes past 10. He went anyway. The woman at the desk was kind, but firm in the way that policy makes people firm. The system had closed. The spot had been released to the next family on the wait list. She was sorry. Marcus thanked her. He walked back outside. He sat down on the curb, not dramatically, just because his legs were tired and he had nowhere pressing to be for the next 40 minutes, and he put the folder on his knees and dropped his head into his hands. He did not cry. He was too tired for crying. He just sat there, breathing, thinking about how he would explain this to Amara. She had been excited. She had told her friends. She had asked twice last week if they had heard anything yet. He sat for a while. Then he stood up, put the folder under his arm, and went to catch his bus. Diana was 40 minutes into her investor presentation when her assistant knocked twice and opened the conference room door. She did not look up immediately. She finished her sentence first. Then she took the folded note her assistant was holding. It said, "Tyler. St. Marin's Hospital. Car accident. He's okay." She left the room without a word. She did not apologize to the board members. She did not ask her assistant to explain. She picked up her bag and walked out the way she always moved, quickly, directly, except this time her hands were not entirely steady. Tyler was in the second bay of the emergency department, sitting up in bed, a white bandage on his forehead and a bruise forming under his left eye. He looked young. He looked very young. She crossed the room and put her arms around him, and he let her, which was more than she sometimes got from her teenage son. The doctor explained, a minor concussion, 4 stitches above the eyebrow, bruised ribs. He had been incredibly lucky. The accident could have been far worse. He was cleared to go home. "There's one more thing," the nurse said, almost as an afterthought, as Diana was filling out paperwork. "A man pulled him out of the car before the fire. He stayed until we arrived. He refused to give his name, just said the boy was going to be fine, and left." Diana did not look up from the form immediately. "He had a folder with him," Tyler said from the bed. "Some kind of paperwork. His hand was hurt. He talked to me the whole time he was getting the door open." Tyler paused. "He asked me what music I liked." Diana set the pen down. "What did he look like?" she asked. Tyler described him simply. "Big. Come. Work clothes. Boots. A torn shirt. A wrapped hand." Diana stood very still for a moment. The lobby. The marble floor. Her own voice, carrying across the quiet room with the certainty of someone who did not need to wait for the facts. She remembered the folder. She spent the rest of the afternoon making calls. She spoke to the paramedics, pulled the accident report, and eventually had a name, Marcus Ellison. She found his address through public records. She sat at her desk for a long time before she did anything with it. She was not a woman who found apologies easy. Not because she was proud, or not only because of that, but because she had spent so many years in rooms where admitting uncertainty was used against you. She had built a shell that was useful in boardrooms and corrosive everywhere else. She knew this. She had known it for a while. She drove herself. No driver. She did not tell anyone where she was going. Marcus's building was a clean, modest apartment complex on the west side of the city. Not rundown, but not new either. The kind of building where people worked hard and came home tired and kept to themselves. She found his unit number, walked up 1 flight of stairs, and stood at the door for longer than she expected. She knocked. He answered in a plain gray shirt, his bandaged hand visible, a dish towel over his shoulder. He had clearly just finished making dinner. Behind him, she could hear the sound of a television, something animated, a child's show. He recognized her immediately. She could see it in his eyes. He did not smile. He did not close the door. He simply waited. "I need to say something," Diana said. "And I need to say it without making excuses." She told him what she knew. The accident report. What Tyler had described. The men who stayed. She told him that her son was alive and stable because of him. And then she said the part that cost her something real. "I looked at you in that lobby and I made a decision in 2 seconds. I didn't ask a single question. I just assumed." She stopped. Started again. "I was wrong. I was wrong about you, and I said it in front of people, and I am sorry." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. He had the kind of face that showed very little on the surface, but not because he felt very little. He was quiet the way rivers are quiet, a great deal moving underneath. "Is he okay?" Marcus asked. That was it. That was his first question. Not about the apology, not about what she thought of herself now, not about what he deserved. Just, is the boy okay? Diana felt something shift inside her chest, something she did not have a precise word for, but that she recognized as the particular discomfort of being shown, without any drama, exactly who you are standing in front of. "Yes," she said. "He's okay. He's home." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good," he said. And he meant it completely. She asked if she could come in. He stepped aside. Amara appeared from the hallway, 9 years old, curious, wearing socks with small yellow suns on them. She looked at Diana the way children look at unexpected guests, openly, without pretense. "Daddy, who is this?" "Someone I met," Marcus said simply. "Go finish your show. I'll call you for dinner." They sat at a small kitchen table. Marcus poured 2 cups of tea without asking. Diana wrapped her hands around the mug and told him about the enrollment office, that she had called ahead while driving over, that she had explained the circumstances to the director, and that Amara's spot at the new school was being reinstated. Effective Monday. Marcus looked at the table for a moment. When he looked up, his expression was composed, but there was something in his eyes, a brief, quiet thing, that told her how much it meant without him having to say so. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know," Diana said. "But I wanted to do something real. Not something that made me feel better. Something that actually helped." He nodded. He seemed to understand the difference. She asked him then, carefully, without pressure, what he actually needed. Not what she could give him, not what would look generous. What he needed. He thought about it honestly. "A more flexible evening schedule," he said. "So I can be at her school things. The pickups. The performances. That's the part one keep missing." It was such a small answer. Not a request for money, not a demand. Just time. Time to be present for his daughter. Diana made a call the next morning. Not to a charity, not to a publicist. Just to a logistics coordinator at a company she trusted. Within the week, Marcus had a delivery route that ended at 3:30 in the afternoon, 5 days a week. The pay was slightly better. The hours fit. She told no one. There was no press. No photograph. No story published online. 3 weeks later, she brought Tyler to meet Marcus and Amara at a small restaurant near the park. It was slightly awkward in the way that real things are awkward. Nobody was performing, nobody had a script. Tyler shook Marcus's hand and said thank you in a voice that was quiet and genuine, the kind of thank you that comes from a young person who has actually sat with what could have happened and understood it. Amara, for her part, immediately asked Tyler if he knew how to play chess. He said he did not. She said she would teach him. He said okay. They stayed for 2 hours. Diana and Marcus did not talk much directly. There was still a distance between them, a reasonable one, built from something real. But at one point, while the children were bent over a napkin where Amara was drawing a chessboard, Diana said quietly, "How did you know what to do?" "In the accident, I mean." Marcus thought about it for a moment. "I didn't think about knowing," he said. "There was a kid in a car. I was right there. That's it." Diana was quiet. She looked at the 2 children at the end of the table, her son, still bruised but laughing now, learning the names of chess pieces from a 9-year-old who was fully serious about teaching him, and she thought about what it meant to be right there. Not just physically. But actually present. Actually paying attention. She thought about the lobby. About how certain she had been. About how much she had missed. On the drive home that evening, Tyler was quiet for most of the way. Then, near their exit, he said, "She's a good teacher, Amara." "She is," Diana agreed. "Her dad's a good guy." "He is," she said again. And this time, her voice was different. Not just agreeing. Knowing. Marcus, for his part, did not think too much about the larger meaning of what had happened. He was not a man who spent much time turning events into lessons. He picked Amara up from her first day at the new school, standing by the gate at 3:20, hands in his jacket pockets, and when she came running out with a drawing she had made in art class, he unfolded it carefully and told her it was the best one he had ever seen. She told him she had made a friend. A boy who was learning chess. Marcus smiled. He folded the drawing and put it in his jacket pocket, next to his chest. Then he took his daughter's hand and they walked home together in the afternoon light, talking about nothing important and everything that mattered. Some people move through the world loudly, making sure everyone knows when they have done something good. Marcus was not that kind of person. He never mentioned Tyler to anyone. He never brought up Diana, or the lobby, or the morning when everything went wrong before it went right. He just kept waking up at 4:30, packing Amara's lunch, and showing up. That was enough. That had always been enough. And somewhere across the city, in a building made of glass and stone, a woman sat at her desk a little differently than she used to. She still made fast decisions. She still ran a tight operation. But she had started doing one small thing she had never done before. She asked first,